Welcome to Those Flipping Guys. If you're here for the first time, you might have a question. What are these sessions all about? Real estate. Being taught by those flipping guys, two experts that are in the business and successful at it. You will have an opportunity to not only engage, but get involved and talk to them. Even if you have questions, hold the questions to the end and then bring them out and you'll get your questions asked. This is why we love doing these webinars, because it's interactive. We get to meet you, you get to meet us, everything comes together. The first step is total immersion. It's a lot easier when you go to a seminar or workshop in the live setting. However, now that you're in a webinar, there's a bit of a disconnect. If you want to feel the change and experience the growth, you must get involved. Turn off your phone notification and find a place where you can be alone for the next 30 to 45 minutes. And remember to always take notes, because 80% retention comes from an action. The more you put into learning, the more you will get out. Time to interact and ask questions. Members get priority, however, we encourage for everyone to get involved. We prefer people that want to go live, so if you have a question and you want to go live, all you have to do is put the word live in your Q&A box below, and we'll set you up on the queue. If you're not comfortable going on screen, you can go on audio only and ask the question. This is an interactive webinar where we'll have Q&As, networking opportunities. Just make sure to get involved. And for those of you that have noticed the record button up above, it's not that we're recording you. We're recording the session for those that want to come back, especially the members, to see pre-recorded sessions. If you're going to be in a place where you can watch your smartphone or your computer, you can always call in and listen to the session. Without further ado, let me introduce to you two good friends, business partners, and real estate experts, Gene and Angelo, those flipping guys.
Somebody makes $25,000. Is that a bad deal?
This is Gene.
I'm glad we put it for the higher price.
This is Angelo. They have been flipping homes since 2001 and have flipped over 3,000 properties. They buy houses for cash.
All done, baby.
No scripts here, no setup scenes, just real guys making real deals.
We're nice guys.
No matter what your ultimate lifestyle looks like, you have to find a way to fund it.
Who wants to make some moolah?
So if you're ready to earn money, balance your life, and live your dreams, meet those flipping guys.
We've got a great program for you today. We're going to talk about the 7 mistakes that new real estate investors make, and ask us how we know, because we made a lot of these mistakes ourselves. We've been doing business now for over 15 years, flipping real estate throughout pretty much Florida, and we've made a lot of mistakes, and we're going to go ahead and share the most common ones, or the things that keep people from getting into the business. And usually it's fear, and it's fear of making a mistake. So one of the very first mistakes that people make is that they don't compare apples to apples. Ange, can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. How's it going? My name's Angelo D'Alessandro. I'm one half of the flipping guys. And, not comparing the apples to apples is a very serious problem because, A, you could value a property way too much and really get hurt. Or B, you could evaluate a property way too little and never end up getting in the game. So what do we mean by apples to apples? Make sure the property that you're evaluating is within the same neighborhood subdivision of the property of your comps. Make sure your comps are of like properties. If they're a beat up property, dinged up, REO, a lot of hair on the dog, only compare the ugly properties to the ugly properties. Once a property is renovated and in nice shape, you make sure you compare those properties that are renovated in nice shape to each other, and you'll see those are thousands of dollars apart. And a lot of new investors will end up saying, "Well, this property here is sold for $179. How am I going to get $250 for my property?" Well, I mean, look at it. The $179 one needed a kitchen, it needed 2 baths, it needed a roof, and you're comparing it to a property with brand new roof, 2 brand new bathrooms. And you got to know how to compare apples to apples. On the flip side of that coin, even worse is you over-evaluate the property because you're not comparing apples to apples, and that's when you start being able to lose a whole lot of money. One, you're losing the opportunity to get started, and 2, you lose a whole lot of money not comparing apples to apples.
You look at the way a property was financed. You can do research, and when you see a property for sale, usually like the MLS, you can find out if it was purchased with cash, or if it was purchased with conventional financing like FHA or conventional financing. So usually your cash sales are usually cheaper because those are your investor buyers that were buying the property, this distressed REO or short sale property. They were buying that distress to fix it up and then sell it again. And then you'll see, and those will all be lumped together in price range. And then you'll see the more expensive properties lumped together, and those were sold conventional or FHA to a regular end user that wanted to move into a property that had no problems or any issues that they had to deal with, no deferred maintenance. So that's another good way. So he's looking at how properties were bought and how they were paid for, but cash or financing. That's a very important one. Okay. So the last thing you don't do when you're evaluating properties based upon the prices is you don't do it based upon an average. Crazy enough, we had a few weeks ago, we had an issue where we had a hard money lender looking to fund one of our buyers. And they just were lazy about it. And what they did is they pulled up a property and they pulled up the values in the area and they just lumped them all together. And there were some $200,000 comps, and there was some $300,000, and they said, oh, this property's worth $250,000. A very experienced hard money lender made the same mistake by saying it was worth $250,000 when the reality is when the property was fully renovated, it was going to be worth somewhere up in that $300,000 price range and maybe even a little bit more. So some people do that. Also, sometimes some of these online companies, these online sites that you go to, sometimes they do that too, and they base properties on averages. All right, Angelo, let's go ahead and move to our next topic. Let's talk about over-improving a property. This happens all the time. You end up falling in love with these properties so much because you've changed it. They become your babies, and you almost treat them like they're your own personal property. Keep in mind, these properties are for selling. That doesn't mean do substandard craftsmanship, but you don't necessarily have to put the money in the travertine or the really nice wood floors or super expensive blinds to get a good return on your investment. So you have to keep the goal in mind that when you purchase a property, you're looking to sell it. And so you want to do things nice, neat, sterile, and pretty. And I'm not saying don't put touches in there or some glass tile or spend a little bit extra on a faucet because it's so much nicer, but you can't constantly do that over and over and over again on a property that you're flipping, especially when you're dealing with a property that's an entry-level kind of property, like in a working-class neighborhood. If you're doing $1 million homes, well, you have to put in the best of the best because that's what that client cares about. But a first-time home buyer, what they care about is a good roof. They care about that they're not going to have any major problems within the first year. An upgrade of stainless steel appliance is like a real perk for that. Down here, tile floors are people like tile floors or laminate floors. Step up and put in a little bit of granite. But sometimes you don't have to put in granite. So you have to know your customer and who your buyer is going to be in order to not over-improve the property.
One of the things that you really have to make sure that you do when you're holding the property is you got to understand what the momentum of the market is in that area that you're buying the property in. So you should know a property selling in 90 days, or property selling in 60 days, or property selling in 30 days. And you have to factor all that time into your renovation. So in essence, you have a renovation that's going to take you 9 weeks, right? So call that 9 weeks plus it's going to take you another 30 days to sell it. You got to factor all that time of when you have to pay your hard money. If you don't, it's a big surprise because you take a $200,000 property at 12%, that's $2,000 a month that you're paying in interest payments, and you got to pay that for 6 months. That's an extra $12,000 that you have to factor in to your bottom line. If not, you'll get hurt. And not to mention closing costs. There's a closing cost on the purchase, and there's closing costs on the sale. So you got to be really savvy. And if you're not, and you don't understand what the closing costs on the purchase and closing costs on the sale will be in a property, and you got to get with somebody who does. So be real careful and real cognizant of your costs going in, your costs going out, and your holding time, because if you forget to calculate that, a lot of times your profit will get eaten up real quick, and especially if you're dealing with higher end properties like 300, 400,000 and above. You got anything to add to that, Gene?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes people don't necessarily know what hard money is or what private money is, and a lot of people think that the only way that they can do this business is if they have all the funds to purchase a property, renovate it, themselves. And the reality is the majority of people that break into the business, they use what's called hard money financing. And this is a private lender, usually a small business or someone who's able to accumulate some wealth. And what they do is they actually lend you the money for you to buy the property, and sometimes they even lend you the money to renovate it, to buy it and renovate it, and then you just pay the carry costs. And you have to pay a couple points, which is percentage points. You pay 2, 3, 4, 5 percentage points to borrow the money, but you get stuck with a very high interest rate, which is for the short-term financing. And usually it's somewhere between 12 and 18% in financing. So basically, if you have a $100,000 property and you have a 15% interest rate, you get stuck paying $1,500 a month, principal only, for every month that you carry the property. Okay, then you couple that with your taxes and your insurance and maintenance and lawn and so forth, and you have a payment on it. Plus, you might get whacked with, between, like I just mentioned, 2 to 5 points to borrow the money. So on top of the months that you're carrying it at hard money rates, you might get stuck with 3 points. So if you borrow $100,000 and you have to pay 3 points, that's going to be another $3,000, $1,000 for each point on a $100,000 property. And if you say, well, I'm not going to be borrowing that, or that's crazy, that's too much money, the reality is it's the cost of doing business. And if you buy a property right and you factor that in, use hard money, because that way it gives you the opportunity to do 2 deals. If you have 2 deals, if you have 1 deal and you put all your own cash into, and you can walk away with $25,000, but you buy 2 deals and you can only make $15,000 each because you borrow hard money, well, that's $30,000 in the same amount of time as doing 1 deal for $20,000. So hard money does make sense, but sometimes you have to get your mind past that. So do you have anything to add regarding hard money?
That's exactly right. People, you need to be able to factor the cost right, or you're going to get hurt.
Now, Ange, here's the next really important thing is so many people are scared about, they don't know about what construction costs are, and they're afraid of getting taken advantage of and so forth. So can you elaborate on that some? This is our 4th point of mistakes that people make.
I like to think that what makes you an expert in anything is knowing what things cost, and especially in real estate investing. So I often tell very experienced people, even a lot of times contractors. I mean, Gene, how many times have we talked to contractors and told them what things cost, and they thought we were crazy?
Oh my gosh. I remember when we first started getting back in after the crash, we were talking to Rob, and we're telling him this is what it has to cost, and he couldn't believe it. And lo and behold, he figured out and found out that we were absolutely right. And this was a general contractor for many years, and that happens all the time.
Right. They get used to charging $15,000, $20,000 for a kitchen. Well, we work on volume. We're real estate investors. It should be cost plus time. So you should know what the materials cost. We get nice kitchens done, nice kitchens with appliances all set for just around $6,000. So these are like the beautiful, nice, pulley, they soft close cabinets, drawers, anything that we would put in our own homes. That helps Gene and I. We're often told that we walk in a house and we're in and out so fast that how do we see everything? Because we really know what we're looking at. We know what things cost. So it's really easy. It's easier for us to evaluate a house than it is to buy a shirt, we often say. So it's important. Evaluating cost and knowing costs are really, really important. Knowing the cost of your products, your supplies, the labor, and it's paramount.
And the one recommendation I'd tell people do is go to Home Depot and find out what toilets cost. Find out what sink and vanities cost. Find out what tile costs so that you actually know. Find out what laminate costs. Find out what a big 5-gallon bucket of paint costs and how many gallons of paint you're probably going to need to paint the house inside and out. I think you'd be very surprised. We spend and we do really nice renovations on our properties. So with materials, with the kitchens and the vanities and everything else, we're spending about $8,000 in materials. Does that sound right, Ange?
That's exactly right. We're spending around $8,000 in materials and about 14 to 16 in labor on an entire home, entire 3-2 home.
Now that doesn't include if it needs like new windows or a new roof. Those would be on top of it. But the basic house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,500 square feet, those are pretty much our labor costs, and we do a really, really, really nice job. So I'd recommend you go to Home Depot, you find out what things cost, and then also I would start going to investor club meetings and find out if there's any recommendations of investor-friendly contractors, painters, and so forth. And definitely on your first deal, I'd recommend you be as hands-on as possible, and you shop and you scrutinize the contractors that you use. Listen, you have to know you're going to make mistakes. Mistakes will happen. You will pick the wrong contractor on occasion. It happens, or he doesn't do as good of a job as he says or she says she's going to do, or they get into the project and then it raises in cost. I know those are all fears, but as long as you have enough profit margin in the property, not any one little detail or mistake or misstep is going to cost you all of your profit.
The next one, I'm going to turn it over to you, Gene, because it's the most simple, and everyone's going to laugh, but the number 5 reason or problems or mistakes real estate investors have is not putting a sign on the property. Why is putting a sign on the property important, Gene?
Yeah, guilty, so guilty. One of the big expenses when you sell a property is you have to use a realtor. At least people think that they have to use a realtor. Well, really, 5 out of, at least 6 or 7 out of 10 times you put a property on the market, you're going to sell it to a neighbor or a friend of the neighborhood, somebody that lives in that neighborhood. And just by putting a for sale sign out there, people will call you directly, and you'll be able to save 3 to 6% in real estate commissions.
Absolutely. So that was a simple one, but the number 6 one is a little bit more intense. Is how do you not pricing the property right? How do you price the property right?
I got to tell you, one of the dangers of listing a property is not putting the right price on there. Because what happens, if you have the most beautiful property, if you're in a fast-moving market, like we're in South Florida, if you're in a fast-moving market, and if that house is gorgeous and isn't priced right, it's not going to sell. If it's too expensive, it's just not going to sell. And then what will end up happening if you keep the property on the market for too long, then automatically it'll become a stigma that, well, there must be something really wrong with that property because that house is beautiful and now it's priced right, but nobody's buying it. So if you put it on there right the first time, what you're going to do is you're going to save all the carry that you would have wasted by testing the waters. You're going to get it under contract. You're going to get your win as fast as you possibly can, and you'll be able to move on to your next deal. And time is money. So I'm not telling you to sell it for less than you have to, but I'm just telling you, don't try to get more and make the market, okay? Unless you really know something about the market that it's like just super on fire and that it's going to sell no matter what to a cash buyer or somebody's has enough money to come in and pay the extra. So price it right where you think it's going to sell, take the money and run onto your next deal. Time is money.
Yep.
This final subject is probably the thing that we're most fortunate at. But we've been in the business so long, and finally, we have this. So, Angelo, can you talk to him about having the right team?
Listen, man, we have an A team. Things happen regardless if Gene and I are around. And, man, that feels good. We have the right title company. That is essential. Someone that's going to watch your back, who's going to make your buyers and your sellers feel super comfortable, be extra professional, nice location, knowledgeable, answers the phone. But that's like so important. Answering the phone is such an anomaly in this day and age. You need to be working with good mortgage brokers who's going to give you the real deal. I'll let Gene tell a horror story about mortgage brokers. We have plenty, but the reality is a mortgage. You need a good mortgage broker on your team. Contractor, pool guy in South Florida. I mean, just having a good pool guy is an amazing thing. We have great landscapers. We have great AC guy. We have great property managers. And every one of those people play a huge role in our business and our success and our family's ability to go on vacations and enjoy themselves. And without having a good team in place, it really puts you at a disadvantage for the most part. And that team will carry you and springboard you into success. You could figure out why it's bad to have a contractor that's not good, not to have a good landscaper, not to have a good pool guy, not to have a good title company even who can't get your deal closed. But why are the mortgage brokers so important, Gene?
They make or break your deal. There's been so many deals that we've when we put the property on the market, we've renovated. It's a gorgeous property. We've got 5 different people that want to buy our property. And then Susie Realtor comes in, and her buyer wants to use their mortgage company. And, this is a true story. One time we had a property, and the buyer wanted to use their mortgage broker. It was some bank, a big bank or what have you. And the lady was a principal at a school. She'd been a principal for a long time. She was putting down like 10%, so she had plenty of money in the bank. She had decent credit, not great credit, but decent credit. And so her mortgage broker pre-qualified her. That means he asked her all these questions. How much money do you make? How's your credit? How much money do you have in the bank? That's called a pre-qual. She pre-qualified her. But when they presented the offer, they presented it as she had been pre-approved. Now, pre-approved is a lot more in-depth process. So they really scope you out. And one of the things that they do is they actually verify your bank accounts. They verify your employment. And one of the biggest things that they do is they verify your taxes. Okay. And so with this lady who's a principal of a school that's a W-2 employee, she just gets a wage, in other words. She's not self-employed. She doesn't have a business. She's a W-2 employee. And she was taking what are called unreimbursed expenses. So here she was making $70,000, $75,000 a year, but she was taking like a $35,000 a year unreimbursed expense, meaning that she was supplying the school with paper and furniture and computers and what have you, which is almost tax fraud, but that's not for me to say. And so it ended up showing that she was making half the money that she really was. And so, they say that a salesperson is the easiest person to sell. So I'm a salesperson. So she had a really good realtor, and she convinced me, oh, this lady's a champ. Let's go with her. Well, 2 weeks into the deal, I realized the lady's not going to be able to qualify because she doesn't really show what she really makes. She shows that she makes less money than she really does, and ended up having the deal fall through. And by having your own team, when they tell you this is a good qualified buyer, they're cooperative, they seem like they're going to work hard when it comes to your mortgage broker, that's the person that you want. So we fight really, really hard. And sometimes we even leave a little bit of money on the table to make sure that the buyer uses our mortgage broker. We don't make any money. We don't make any kickbacks. There's nothing like that. However, we do get the comfort that if he says that the deal is going to close, that this buyer is worthwhile working with, it's worthwhile to work with this buyer, I know the deal is going to close. And that gives me a lot of peace that we can go work on our next deals.
It's the worst thing in the world is to take points off the scoreboard. So when you have a property sold and it ends up falling through because your person wasn't qualified properly, that's taking points off the scoreboard. That's more debilitating to us than actually the loss of the money. We more care about the points on the scoreboard, at least Gene and I,
Absolutely, yeah. Once it's sold, we wanted to keep moving. And Ange, one last detail, one of the most important parts of the team that we have, Ange, is that we have each other. Okay, and therefore sometimes when I'm not confident about a deal and you are, I get to follow your lead. And sometimes when I'm confident about a deal and you might not, we follow my lead. Okay,
right.
Or we understand a market better, you understand a market better than I understand a market, and vice versa. And so having a team, having somebody to encourage each other when we feel like, oh man, we got so much money and expenses and I don't want to take on another project, and you've got you going out there and saying, man, we got to do this deal. Having the proper team is so important, having the great partnership. And I know a lot of you guys out there are just thinking about, well, it's just me. I'm really not going to have a team. So listen, I don't want you to feel like that. That's what we're here for. We want to be your mentors, and we want to teach you the business and be your coach. So if you guys are interested in taking your business, your real estate investing business to the next level, go ahead and click on the link below for evaluation and see if we'll go through evaluation and see if you can kind of be part of the Flipping Guys team. So on behalf of Angelo and myself and the rest of the gang here at Bank On It and Bold, thank you very much for your time today. Let's have a great week.
I just want to come in here and thank you for being a part of this session, getting involved and participating. We love serving you. However, if you're not a member, I recommend that you sign up now. If you really want to learn, you really want to be part of a great coaching team, and you want to take your real estate game to the next level, you definitely have to become a member. One more thing, I want to make sure you log on to our website so you can watch our online reality show. Don't miss it. A lot of information, a lot of content, and it's really good stuff. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Register online today and join us for all new interviews and topics. Only on thoseflippingguys.com.